Hello, everybody, and welcome back to a special episode of the SNEED-CAST here at SNEED Coding Solutions Global Headquarters in Spring, Texas. I'm very excited about our guest today, one of our very own bright young superstars, rock stars as we like to call them. Alexa Marmolejo, our content marketing strategist, was recently fortunate enough to attend HubSpot's inbound annual marketing conference covering everything from SEO to email marketing, social media. AI was, I know, a big trend and topic at the conference. So of course she was there on our behalf, picking up tips and insights and how to get better at our marketing game, email, social media, so on and so forth. Of course, we're on the B2B side, and we do understand that most of all of you guys out there are on the B2C side, but HubSpot is huge in the B2C game, so we knew that Alexa was going to have a lot of great insights to share. We thought we'd put a little podcast episode together talking to her, share some of her highlights from the conference that might be of interest for you folks, some great follows. I know she's got some great thought leaders from the industry that she's going to talk about. So all of those folks and what they had to say about the future of digital marketing, inbound marketing, so on and so forth. So before we get going, before you forget, don't make sure to like, subscribe, bell, all the great things that Alexa's usually better at doing on intros than I am. But she's the guest today. So without further ado, let's get a round of applause for Alexa. All right, Alexa, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
To the guest chair of the podcast. So, so we'll get started. Again, I guess, the most general question is always going to be just overall, this is your first time going inbound. I went last year. Going into it, I guess we talk about what your expectations were, what did they exceed, underwhelming, just kind of that perspective and just your overall, inbound takeaway.
Okay, so kicking it off, I would say it's an overwhelming amount of information and booths that you encounter as soon as you get into the actual space. You had already shown me videos of inbound from the previous year, but nothing can really prepare you for once you go down those escalators and you see everything just out in the open, not to mention that you have another 2 levels that contain endless seminar rooms. But okay, getting there, or before getting there actually, I was actually really nervous just because I thought that what could I potentially learn, or I was facing a little bit of imposter syndrome just because I was do I really know enough to truly, I guess, take advantage of everything that I would encounter at inbound? But obviously that's just the marketing side of me. Getting there, I feel there was so much great information. Just that first seminar, whenever HubSpot was launching all of their latest integrations, you're learning about Breeze, you're learning about the new chat agents, you're learning about social media agents, which is going to be something that's big on my part. In terms of helping me come up with a strategy, helping me to run our different social media accounts. And not just so much Breeze, but then moving on, again, the countless seminars that you encounter. On the second and the third floor, you have so much information when it comes to email marketing, what's new there, what's new in the world of generative AI, which is something that's huge and a lot of marketers are currently panicking about. You're also learning about what's new in the world of SEO, just because it's no longer just search engine optimization, it's now search everywhere optimization. But again, I quickly went from feeling nervous about not knowing enough to truly take advantage about inbound or at inbound to feeling now's my time to just soak up everything that I could potentially learn here.
Sure, and knowing just to I've seen her notes, folks. She definitely soaked up a lot of information. So.
Oh yeah.
Would you say, my question just slipped out, but any kind of pro tips or anything that you would say in preparation? Obviously your first time, do you feel you over-prepared, under-prepared, just right prepared? And what would you say to somebody that's maybe looking at going next year or going for the first time?
Okay, so I definitely feel I was under-prepared. You've seen how I prepare for things. You see how organized I am. Even with having an agenda in mind, it's there is so much overlap when it comes to those seminars. So it's okay, I would want to attend something related to email marketing and SEO at the same time, but obviously they overlap. You have to leave one of them 10 minutes early, even though it's getting to the good stuff. Right. And you have to rush across to a different floor. You have to rush across to the other side. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of overlap. As much as I felt I was prepared and I had my agenda laid out and I had a game plan in mind, everything quickly changes
Yeah.
when you're there. It's like you're rushing around, you're trying to meet or you're trying to make it to like every seminar, but you can't split yourself
Right.
up into like different, seminars as much as I would have wanted to.
Right. So I know that just speaking one-on-one, one of your big takeaways and something that we're potentially going to do next year, right, is going solo versus maybe having some colleagues with you. Right?
Okay, so before I had even gone to Inbound, you had already mentioned that whenever you had gone last year, you wanted to have someone to bounce ideas off of, and that couldn't have been more true when I was there. Like, I'd get out of seminars and I was just like, I need to pitch this to the team, like right then and there.
Right, when it's
like,
fresh, right?
Yeah, so I had gotten out of like 2 different email seminars, and I was just like, we need to scratch everything that we're doing. I really want Ken to be here right now just so that he can hear everything that I'm hearing. But yeah, I definitely recommend having your team there, not just because it's like a great way to bounce ideas off in between seminars, but it's also because you have so many different sections of marketing that you're tackling. Like you're tackling video strategy, you're tackling SEO, you're tackling email. There's also like a whole sales component, which I felt lost in just because that's not my area of expertise.
Sure.
But again, we have team members that are experts in sales. We have team members that are experts in video. And then there's the whole email SEO, and that's my little area.
Right. Excellent. So, yeah, so definitely just to kind of like some of the things I'm hearing from you, right? There, definitely plenty of content, lots of seminars. It's not like anybody that's going is going to lack for things to and it's almost like there's too much. It's at least for one person to be able to get everything in. So like, in terms of like, do you have, let's say like your number one like presentation that like sticks out the most? I don't know, best presentation, but just kind of like the most memorable, I would say, presentation.
Okay. So before we even jump into like my favorite and the one that stands out the most, I attended, I want to say like 15 different seminars.
Over what, 2.5 days?
Over the course of 2.5 days. And even then it doesn't feel like enough. Even then I was like, maybe I should have just skipped out on lunch and attended like another two. Again, it just felt like there wasn't enough time in the day to get to everything that I wanted to get to. But okay, top presentation had to be Jay Schwedelson and Pierce, and I apologize for how I'm gonna pronounce his last name, Eugene Walla. Their presentation was basically tearing down emails that like other companies had sent in. I'm honestly grateful that we didn't send anything in just because I feel like I would have been in absolute tears seeing my email get torn apart. But the reason why I feel like theirs stood out the most, not only did they make the information relatable in a way that like it's super easy to digest, just because it's so easy to like put a presentation up there and read from the screen, and obviously like you're taking down notes, but you're not really understanding the information that's being presented to you. But just the way that they presented. So going into it, their whole thing was tearing down like what we currently know about emails. So everything from like the characters that you would expect in a subject line to your pre-headers to how many lines of information a person's actually going to read through. So I learned tons. So like in terms of like our pre-headers, I went from just essentially taking up as much space as I wanted to in that pre-head to now limiting it down to like 68 characters. And then when it comes to your subject line, that's 60 characters total. So the marketing nerd in me was geeking out throughout that entire presentation, just because like I now have new specs to go off of.
And
also, in
real quick, I know already it's only been 2 or 3 weeks. I know you've already implemented some of those changes, and you've already, if I recall correctly, you told me you've already seen a noticeable increase in our open rate, our click-through rates, and so like these changes we're seeing already like an almost immediate impact of these.
So one of the most interesting points that Jay and Pierce had brought up was that when your emails are too busy, your customers aren't necessarily going to get the point that you're trying to get across. So I've already eliminated things like it's not our resource tab. It's our
like our little menu tab.
Our menu that's at the top, just because, so Jay couldn't have phrased it any better. He called it the kiss of death. Just because the point of having like your email go out to your customers is again to focus on that specific point.
Like a single call to action, a single message.
Right.
Right.
And whenever you have that that menu up at the top, it's like you're almost leading people away from the point that you're trying to prove.
Right.
Like you're leading
Before
them
they
out.
even get to it.
Right.
Right.
Another thing that I've learned is why would you hide your CTA all the way at the bottom?
Right.
Like the point of it is to like that's one of the first things that your customers should be seeing.
Right.
Same thing with like your, what would you call them? Like your feature images, they should definitely reflect what it is that you're trying to get across in that email, which is something that we had already been doing, but again, just re-emphasizing that this time around. And then keeping it short and sweet. No one wants to read essays, and I know that I've been guilty of this in the past. I know that when I first started here, I was like, oh, let me over-explain everything just to really get that point across, and it's like, realistically, our attention span has gotten so short, so sweet. I know that I don't necessarily want to read like a whole paragraph within an email. Right. So again, now I'm like condensing things that need to be condensed. I'm moving our CTA up toward the top, getting rid of that that menu bar up at the top, but just trying to keep our customers' attention span in mind, and then what would be most important to them. Right. So their presentation, again,
that was the
top tier.
And is that part of like, I know you mentioned, so like part of their presentation too was like getting some submissions. I was gonna say customers, but I guess marketing submissions from real marketers, companies like us or companies like you folks watching that are sending in their emails, and how badly did they get eviscerated? Did anybody stand up to the scrutiny?
Okay,
was there anyone that was? I mean, you don't have to name the companies or anything. I'm just curious if anybody was able to withstand the analysis.
Okay, so at the end they had asked the crowd if anyone there had sent in an email. Obviously, no one stood up just because you just got obliterated.
It's like taking your basketball game and having LeBron James say, okay, like how's my form? Steph Curry, how's my 3-pointer? Jay Swedelson, that's the top guy for email marketing.
Again, like I thought all of his insights were great, but me personally, I was so grateful that I didn't send anything in just because I probably would have been in tears in there. I don't think I could have gone up to him after the fact and been like, hey Jay, I thought your presentation was great. Thanks for tearing my email apart.
But you did go up and get a selfie with him, didn't you?
Yes.
We'll make sure that goes in right here, Quentin.
Definitely did. I was nervous up until that point, but he had such a great presentation. I can't thank him enough for his insights. Aside from him, someone else's presentation who I found interesting was Nancy Harhut. So her presentation focuses on 5 different unconventional ways of getting your message across to your customers. So I think my biggest takeaway from that presentation is just obviously customers don't want to be pushed into a sale. Right. Like your whole thing.
If it feels like sales, people turn off immediately.
Oh,
that's how I am. I mean, that's just a human nature. You feel like you're being sold and you immediately put up a wall.
And I know I've been guilty of it in our CTA. Sometimes I just go in for like the whole, hey, like buy now, pre-order now. That's not the way to go about it though. Like people want to take that decision for themselves. Right. So it's like the way that you phrase information is really important. So instead of saying like buy now, it should be like, oh, the choice is yours, or like, feel free to choose once you learn this set of information. Again, she mentioned 5 different learning styles or messaging styles within there. So one of them was people are easily influenced. So that goes back to the whole social learning theory.
And social proof, right?
Or social proof, yeah. So everything that people are currently seeing other people doing, they're more likely to do that. Also, feel free to over-explain. So people are more likely to do something when you explain the reasoning behind it. Mm-hmm. So the moment that you reason like, or the moment that you mention because of this, like that's going to help you even more too. Again, the way that you're phrasing things, so the feel free to choose, that just goes back to like the whole people are autonomous concept. But yeah, her presentation was great. I know that I've definitely started implementing that in our emails as well, like as in our social media content as well. Okay. Just keeping that in mind. So don't be pushy. Cool. I know sometimes I want to. It's just
definitely. I mean, that's I'm a salesperson first, marketing second. So I mean, I know all about that general nature, to try to get those buys and those sales. So, and I know on your list too, of course, my favorite from last year, 2023, and ever since then, huge follow for me. I know this team's probably tired of me hearing his name all the time, but Dale Bertrand was there doing a presentation, I believe, on generative AI, and what were some takeaways from his?
Okay, so his whole presentation focused on generative AI, and it honestly reminded me of when AI was first coming out into the marketing space and everyone was freaking out because they're like, oh, I'm not going to have a job anymore. Like, AI is going to take over what I do. I feel like marketers are currently freaking out with generative AI because they're like, okay, well, it's stealing my content. How am I going to rank? It's that same feeling of like, should I panic? Should I not panic? And again,
we need to have a union strike, like, the ILA, they're afraid of automation. Maybe we need a little side joke there.
when it comes to this sort of topic, I feel like the more you know about it, the more at ease you feel because it's obviously like, the more you know about generative AI, the more you can use it to your advantage. Right. So Dale is all about talking about how to reformat your content to now rank for generative AI or to land on those generative AI, the drop downs, little forums. Yeah. Right. So we're switching back to like a how-to kind of content. Lists are also great. But he also mentions considering Reddit, which is something that I had never considered.
That's right, you mentioned that.
Because he talks about diversifying your content forms. And whenever he had talked about Reddit, again, it's not a platform that I'm on and it's not a platform that I'm comfortable with. But he also mentions that it's the perfect search engine, or it's the perfect place for a search engine to crawl just because of how organized it is. Sure. Like you have your main topic and then you have all of these subreddits under it. And it's also a great place for companies to interact with their customers. Obviously very carefully, just because Q has made the point that sometimes customers and companies can get into
wild west on the Reddit there, yeah.
It definitely is, but it's something to consider. Again, something else that he mentioned that's super important with so much content that's being produced nowadays, it feels like sometimes your search engines can get a little oversaturated with that content. So consider going back and updating content just to stay up to date. Search engines love that. Right. So it's something to keep in mind. I know it's something that we want to tackle at some point. It's just, there's so much to do.
Right. Just like you folks out there, a lot of you smaller companies and whatnot, we're a small but mighty marketing team. Myself, Alexa, Quentin, and half of Daniel. So we know all about just trying to get as maximize, but you can only do so much, right? So, and that's kind of one big thing too about the AI takeaway. If you're out there, you're not sure what to do with AI. There's lots of AI tools. There's Jasper. And there's other ones too that you can use to augment your content writing. And if you have a small but mighty team like we do, and you have a superstar like Alexa, it really just becomes kind of like a marketing assistant for her so that she can become faster and more efficient when she's looking at email, social media, SEO content. There's a lot of things that you're responsible for, and having Jasper there just kind of helps you, like again, with that efficiency. Ideation to creation. I mean, just every level of content creation. I know that it's been a huge help for you. So that's another definitely little pro tip. If you haven't looked at Jasper, I would highly recommend just kind of playing with it and seeing if it's helpful.
And then talking about AI. So one of the other presentations that I thought was super interesting came from George B. Thomas. Mm-hmm. So he talks about how to really get precise with your AI, or how to really get specific with them.
Because the prompts is like, if you're, that's your kind of same thing, dead on arrival, or like if you don't have the right prompt, you garbage in, garbage out, right?
Yeah, no, couldn't have said it better myself. I know that like when it comes to, I guess the best way to put it is like whenever you give me assignments, right? Like the more specific you are, the better I feel about it, because it's like, okay, my guidelines are solid, like they're rock solid. And I know I've been guilty of using AI vaguely. It's like, I feel at some point it gets repetitive, but it gets repetitive because I'm not giving it enough specifics.
Right,
like,
that makes sense.
I'm not giving it the key points that I would want it to hit. So it goes back to like, if you give it something generic, it's gonna give you something generic back. George talks about implementing like your personas. So getting specific with it, everything from like your persona's age to like what they would, their pain points, just essentially everything that they would encounter throughout their journey with you. So getting more specific with your tools, that was great. I know, again, something that I haven't been doing. And it's not just so much like your personas, but again, like the specs that you would get from your projects, definitely implementing that. I know on the Jasper end, like you do have a knowledge base. And I know it's something that I should be using more. It's just...
Well, it's getting more comfortable with it. And then again, also time is like, do you have time to sit and play around with the tool? A lot of times you don't.
But that's the thing, being short on time, like it could be saving me so much time. Like,
yeah,
if I would have
it's
been
a double-edged sword.
yeah, if I had been more specific with it from the beginning, not just Jasper, but any AI tool. Like, if you're specific with it in the beginning and builds up that knowledge base, then you're definitely going to reap the rewards later on.
And that's the other thing too. Another just kind of tip on AI is be patient.
Oh yeah.
It will, if it's kind of annoyingly not giving you what you want in the beginning, it is built to improve and learn. So as you give it corrections, it gets stronger and stronger and better.
Yeah. No, and that is a key point that he brought up. Whenever AI gives you a response that you're not necessarily benefiting from it, or that it doesn't necessarily like apply to what it is that you're looking for, let it know that.
Right.
Like, don't just hit the thumbs down. Don't just hit the like, hey, can you give me new copy?
And
like,
maybe give it some
yeah,
feedback.
give it feedback.
Right. Yeah, it's just kind of like an employee almost, you know?
And then, okay, last presentation comes from Andrew Warden and Marcus Tover. So they were presenting on behalf of SEMrush.
Okay.
As we all know, I absolutely
use
love
SEMrush.
SEMrush. I know that I've been freaking out sometimes whenever it comes to seeing like my my keyword positioning. Whenever it falls, I'm automatically in like, what happened? Like, what did I do wrong? Why does it hate me?
You have an abusive relationship with Google search.
It's a love-hate thing. I know that I was freaking out whenever like the whole generative AI thing launched on Google's side. I was like, okay, I went from going home on a Friday and seeing that my keyword positioning was where it should have been.
Yeah.
To then losing like a good 40 points, and I was like, what did I do?
Right.
What did I break? So they talk about how you shouldn't count long form content out of the game. The best approach is a hybrid approach. So again, don't feel bad about using AI. That's a tool that's there to help you maximize your time, to help you maximize how much content you're getting out there. Again, it's not about quantity, it is about quality. But it does help you when you have so much on your plate. Right. And then lastly, this was something that like automatically caught my attention just because, again, whenever SEMrush seems to hate me, that's not the case. They're now going to be launching a feature where within minutes, they're going to let you know what went wrong.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So instead of wondering for like weeks on end what went wrong, it's now going to be like within the course of a couple of minutes. And then you can just easily go back into implementing those fixes. Not to say that it's going to be a quick fix, just because as we know, organic search and organic content does take a while to actually kick in. So something to just keep in mind.
Absolutely. So one other thing, and it came to mind because you had kind of mentioned this when you first got back. Right. And it wasn't on the outline here, but it just came to mind. I know you said there was like one of the big things they were talking a lot about at the show was video content, right? Like that's a big thing to be focused on. So if you're not doing video, do video. And if you're not sure how to do it, just start. If you go watch some of our first episodes of this podcast, it's evolved a lot. And so you have to start doing it and putting it out there.
Right.
And now, were there any, I think you missed some of the video stuff, obviously, from your lane. It wasn't necessarily, that's why we're hopefully bringing Quentin next year and he can go to all those video seminars. But was there any of the stuff that you came, like any of the main presentation or anything, anything on video at all that you?
So there are some key points that I want to talk about when it comes to video, not just so much on like, you can record long form video and then repurpose it and remix it for different social channels. But something that someone had mentioned, and I can't remember their name, they had mentioned that sometimes it's not about the quality of the video, it's about how real you get and about that human connection. Sure. So it's not always about filming in like 4K and then going back and like re-editing over and over and over. Sometimes people just want like
a cell phone video. I mean, that's our number one content is user submitted cell phone videos of their use cases of our products. So get your customers to get that user engagement, get customer feedback, get their videos. And everybody's got a camera in their pocket. Oh yeah. And it's pretty easy when you just start trying a little bit to get some video content. But ultimately, so great highlights there. There's obviously a lot more. We could go on and on and on. Oh, yeah. Like I said, pages upon pages of notes Alexa had. So, but for us, we see the value. We see the investment. Digital marketing, search engine marketing, paid ads, social media, all of it is something that is constantly changing, constantly evolving. And Inbound is a great annual event to go to have, they get all the thought leaders in marketing in one space to share their ideas, share their insights, share what they're seeing, right? So, but from your perspective, like if somebody's on the fence, or if maybe somebody is in your position,
Right.
and they got to go to their boss and say, hey, I just watched this awesome podcast from SNEED, and they're saying this inbound conference is going to turn our marketing game upside down in a good way. What would be like some pitch points they should give their boss, I guess, on why they should go to inbound and make that investment?
Okay. So again, I've been in the marketing industry now for like the past 2, going on 3 years. And I feel like I had already had somewhat of a foundation, but going to inbound, it's such an eye-opener to what's actually changing. Just because I know whenever I had first started learning about SEO, I was a mess.
Right.
Like I didn't know any of the back-end stuff. I didn't know what a meta description was, didn't know what a SERP title was, had no idea how long my content should actually be.
Right.
And again, that really varies depending on what type of content you're publishing. But inbound guides you in ways that like a video or maybe an article couldn't guide you in. And not just so much in like the guidance way and building up your foundation way, but there's also so many great like integrations there. There's so many people that you can talk to help steer you in the right direction. So again, like with the different types of booths, don't feel nervous to go up to them and ask them like, hey, what is it that you guys do? I know that that's what I spent like my first half of my 3rd day doing there. I was like, I have no idea what you do, but like I'd like to hear it.
Yeah.
So go up, find the different resources, find tools that could potentially solve problems that you're currently having. So again, I know one for us last year that you came back with was Jasper. Just because we were so busy, and Jasper has definitely made a difference over the last year that we've had it. We've been able to maximize our time that much more. But going back to your question, so definitely it can help steer you in the right direction. It can help steer you in the direction of the right tools for your company. It can help you build up your knowledge base for like SEO, for email marketing, for socials, podcast, video. So everything that's on the content creation side, as well as like your sales side, just everything.
Yeah.
Everything to do with marketing is there. But yeah, I think really helping to solidify your foundation, helping you stay up to date with everything that's new.
Yeah, exactly. If you're in the digital marketing space, you're in e-commerce, which a lot of our customers are, a lot of you folks watching are in e-commerce. Definitely recommend, try sending one person at first, and you'll probably have the same realization that we did, that you might need 2 people to go, depending on the size of your marketing team, of course, and those that are involved. And you already, the actionable insights you already have just within a couple of weeks on our email, implementing those tips, and we're already seeing, seeing that improvement. So it's amazing. It kind of ties into this last question we had prepared here, but right? What were some of the changes or that you maybe already have implemented? We kind of talked about that, but like that got you most excited, or that you're currently working on trying to implement?
So I was absolutely itching to implement all of our email marketing changes. I could not come back to the office quick enough to implement those. So the first email that I had sent out as soon as I came back, I like immediately A/B tested it, and then I like reformatted everything. And like we had already seen those results where it's like, okay, the new formatted email, which had all of the insights from inbound, had a higher click-through rate, had a higher open rate. People were actually reading it more than they were like the traditional format that we had gone with. So again, it had already paid off there. Format-wise, I had already shortened it too, which is something that I was guilty of not doing beforehand. So again, I think I was most excited to implement those email changes. Not to say that like I haven't implemented like our social changes.
Sure.
It's just like email was what I was like dying to come back and do.
Yep. And then one thing we didn't write down, but like I said, I was going to ask you, they also had some pretty big names outside of marketing to try to draw. I know last year when I went, it was John Mulaney, Dr. Andrew Huberman, and Derek Cheater. Those were some great presentations this year. They had Ryan Reynolds, Serena Williams, and I know they also do a nice little comedian thing at David Spade. So like of some of the like maybe non-marketing type, or like, what was your favorite there?
This episode of SNEED-CAST is brought to you by our SNEED-JET and SNEED-PACK systems, your go-to solutions for boosting efficiency without breaking the bank. Say goodbye to the new year hangover with affordable coding, marking, and packaging equipment designed to keep your operations running smoothly. SNEED-JET offers versatile coding and marking systems from handheld to inline, with precision printing on any material and adjustable print heights to fit your needs. SNEED-CAST takes your packaging process to the next level with case erectors, case sealers, labelers, and conveyors that save time, reduce waste, and ensure seamless operations. Start 2025 on the right foot with cost-effective, high-quality solutions that help you stay within budget while optimizing your business. Shop SNEED-JET and SNEED-CAST today for big savings.
Okay, so I'd have to say David Spade was definitely a favorite. I grew up hearing him in so many different movies.
Right.
I somewhat expected him to just have his whole comedic layout centered like around grown-ups like jokes, and
Right.
it was nothing like that. He actually put on a really good show.
Awesome.
It was nothing like what he does in the movies. It was just, he was funny from like start to finish. And then Ryan Reynolds was definitely another, obviously big name out there.
Yeah, we watched that one. Quentin and I had that one streaming on the YouTube.
Everyone wanted to go see him. It was jam-packed. He made some key...
That's probably why they saved him for the last.
Yeah.
Anybody that was thinking about leaving early, they're like, oh, I got to hang out for Ryan.
Yeah, no, he was great. He brought up a fair amount of marketing points. Obviously, we don't all have his budget.
Right.
You know, but he definitely still made some good marketing points.
I think one of my biggest takeaways from watching it was like a big thing that was kind of throughout his talk was about authenticity.
Yeah.
I know that's a big thing for him. It's just be you.
Yeah.
You know, and you see that in his, goofy, funny commercials that he does where he's in them. He just he does his own, just don't be afraid to be authentic and just be who you are and don't try to come up with some kind of facade, I feel like.
Yeah. So again, David and him were great.
Awesome, awesome. And then next year's inbound is going to be it's in
Francisco.
Boston. San Francisco next year, usually around September. I know they've announced the dates. I don't remember if they are. So it will be in San Francisco next year. We highly recommend definitely going. We will be going at least 2, hopefully, definitely thinking 3 next year. So maybe we'll see you there if we do. But that's definitely something. Also, check out HubSpot. We love HubSpot here. It's a great CRM platform, both for your sales, just as a traditional sales CRM, but then all your marketing stuff is there, your disposable as well. Inbound is just a phenomenal conference with lots of information, lots of insights, thought leaders. And is there anything else we've missed, Alexa, that we should be sure to mention?
So talking about HubSpot, something that people should be aware of. So it's not just so much like the CRM platform and how to maximize your efforts within the platform. It's also the learning section was something that I learned a lot from. So they have their own little like academy section. I know that there's a couple of certification courses that I want to check out. Just because again, like I started as a copywriter here and I feel like I have that role down. Yeah. But now going into the whole content marketing strategist role, that's like a completely different ball game. Or not completely different.
Well, it's more, right, you're going from tactical to just like, a bigger picture type look, right?
So HubSpot definitely has a good amount of courses on how to become a better strategist. I know it's something that I definitely recommend. And it's not just for like the whole content creation. Oh, let me backtrack on that. It's not just for the content marketing strategist role, but there's also like social media certifications on there. There's video certifications on there. So just any marketing certification that you can think of, HubSpot more than likely has a course on it.
Absolutely, no, they do. We've used that. Yeah, the HubSpot Academy is a phenomenal resource, and I do believe most of it is open. I don't think you actually have to be a HubSpot user to actually go on there and watch some of those videos that they have on there in a wide assortment. From marketing to sales, operations, analytics, data, reporting, all of the above. So just all around really great experience. We're glad to have you back. Obviously, Alexa, excited to see all the results from everything you bring back. So that's our episode this time around. We want to thank Alexa for joining us on the other side of the table, so to speak, and being our guest. Again, like, subscribe, hit that bell down at the bottom, notifications, all of the above. Subscribe, and go check out HubSpot. Go follow some of these folks. Some highlight: Jay Schwedelson, the top dog in email marketing. Dale Bertrand for SEO insights. George B. Thomas, Andrew Warden, Marcus Tober, Nancy Harhut, Pierce Ujinwala. These were some of the highlights from Alexa. So go follow them. Find them on LinkedIn. They're out there. They're putting up great content. So a lot of stuff that you can keep up with on a daily, weekly basis if you're on LinkedIn and some of these platforms. And thanks for tuning in. We'll see you folks next time.